I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm also it's like, you know, I got this. I got it, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, so, and then all it takes is a semi driving by you when you're on the highway, and I'm like at, 65 miles an hour and a semi is going the other way on a narrow road. And all of a sudden you're like, whew, and you're like, you got to hold on. You're like, okay, I have to pay attention at all times. Yeah. I don't know.
It's like
It's a
it's
real
like John
adventure.
Bon Jovi said, yeah, you got to hold on to what you got. It
That's
doesn't
right.
make a difference if you make it or not, right?
Oh my God. I'm so psyched that you did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you pick this specific motorcycle?
I mean, look, because I'm a total geek. Like since seeing Steve McQueen, I previously had a Cafe Racer, a '69 Triumph, but it was like kickstarting it. Literally, I thought I was going to kill myself. I was just like, okay, I can't do this. So I was like, sold it, and I was like, the next one I buy, I'm going to have an automatic start on it. But yeah, it's they're everything that you want, feeling that power, that vibe, but it's also not so loud that I can't hear the world around me. And just that quintessential British kind of vibe. I love the lines. It's so classic. I just think it's sick.
You've had so many different vectors to express your ideas professionally, artistically, whether it's scent, production, business. Why are the motorcycle and travel the vector for this project?
Well, I mean, this, I mean, I'm no matter what I do career wise in my life, I'm an actor first. It's just like it's even a little hard for me to say because my career has not been that of a successful actor. But at the core of who I am, like how I see the world, um, uh, both through really warped eyes, through serious, through cheeky, through everything is through that, right? Is really as a storyteller. And when COVID, uh, my view is that COVID, technology, and politics have separated us dramatically. And it's weird to me that it feels like we're not talking about it, like we're pretending that it didn't happen, that COVID didn't happen, and kind of just trying to get on with things. Um, and I genuinely feel as though we have to reconnect. We just have to reconnect. And, I remember as a kid, just traveling across the US, whether it was, my parents were divorced, but it was like trips in motorhomes, trips, Stuckies. You're probably even still to you, but there was like Stuckies at all these places and then motels and motels that had indoor swimming pools that smelled like crazy chlorine. And, but people actually really connected, even like KOA campgrounds, right? And fishing at the ponds in these KOA campgrounds. But it feels genuinely like we have so much in common and we can't even connect on what that is these days. And this felt like a real like a real all out way to just kind of like do it and do it in a way that challenges me, that I don't know what to really expect. I mean, I can plan the ride, but that's about all I can do. I can't plan the weather. Whether it all goes off without a hitch. And I think it's good for me to be vulnerable as I talk with people as well, and to have myself in that, am I going to be okay? Am I going to do all right? Am I going to screw up kind of thing? Yeah.
Certainty is an illusion, and at its core, everything changes in life. And as you started to hone in conceptually on the ideas that inform this project, what actually catalyzed this into what it has become? What was that moment for you?
Hmm. I'm, in 2008, I took a class with from Tal Ben Shahar, who wrote this book called Happier. He's a professor and teacher of positive psychology, and there was just something about Tal and that class and about what's right with us instead of what's wrong with us. And so I went and got a master's in applied positive psychology at Penn. I was fortunate enough to be accepted to the program, but it really just expanded the idea of really that it exists, that storytelling exists no matter who we are, no matter how creative we are, whether we're a housewife, whether we work in a factory, whether we're a doctor, a plumber, a scientist, an artist. It doesn't matter. We all find ways of being creative, right? And that to me is the number one way. Well, and that we all have value, right? That we all have meaning. That all of our stories, it doesn't matter who we are, where we are, what we, no matter how little or much we think of ourselves, our stories have meaning. They have value. Um, and that it's like, how can you go wrong when you meet up with someone, regardless of how different our views might be? If I can look at anybody through that lens. And so I'd say storytelling, and but a lot of it came out of our fragrance brand. When we realized, when we first launched the brand and we were at all these events, and we, even when we were in the Middle East, and people we didn't speak the same language, right? We were somehow still able to connect through, like, people smelling a fragrance and talking about it. And so when I really started digging into, like, my experiences on scent, not just fragrance, but um, scent, and the value of that from an emotional standpoint and connecting really viscerally, emotionally, those two seem to come together really quickly. Just storytelling and fragrance, and that you can't really judge somebody's value on scent or fragrance, right? That's theirs. They own that. That's their memory. That's theirs. And I just think that it's such an immediate way to say, yeah, that's yours. You own it. It has meaning. It matters. I'll just use real quick as one example. My dad had a bar down in Fort Lauderdale when I was a kid, and of course we couldn't go into the bar at night when it was active and everything. But if we stopped by there with my mom to get something or drop something off, we went in, and it smelled like spilt alcohol, the rubber mats, cigarettes. Of course, everybody smoked back then. And that is not a great smell, but I didn't think, oh, that smells bad. I thought something happened there last night. What's happening in this place? I was a kid, right? But it just triggered something that I knew there was a story that came with that smell. And so I just love that. So whether you're on a farm or whether you're at the beach, whether you work on the ocean, or you have a relationship with the ocean, or you're not anywhere near the ocean, and there's no mountains to be seen, it's the desert. There's all of us have this relationship with scent that's quite different, and it changes on our age, and it changes during the time of day, even, like, it changes during the seasons. It just never stops changing. Yeah, and from a storytelling point, I just think that is it blows my mind.
For some people, the container for stories and adventures that they undertake in their adult life in search of something, it might be a religious pilgrimage, it might be a trip to Burning Man, where there are probably a lot of interesting smells the
Yeah.
Tuesday after Burning Man ends. I can tell you from having gone 9 times and retired in 2010. And with this specific journey, why this specific container, and what might people
Um, well, I hope that all of us, myself included, are able to uh, kind of be curious about something from a different angle, from a different point of view. Uh, as a filmmaker, I mean, uh, I always love that idea of what's off the frame. What is it? You know, what's behind the camera? What is it that we're not seeing? So what's that story over there? Um, walking into a place and thinking. I mean, just for example, so I'm stopping in Sedona, and Regilio um, is a shaman. And, I've got an idea of, and I've spent a life. I lived in an ashram and followed a guru, and all that stuff has been very, very compelling and foundational in who I am. But so I'm walking in with an idea of something, but I think what happens before I get there, what is it, what are the surprises? Maybe what do I learn that's different than what I expected? Um, um, and what about all the people that surround the area that maybe don't think about the spiritual vortex of Sedona, right? And what's their relationship to that? Their story still has value, not still, but it has value, has meaning, supports that environment. I'm just curious to um, expand my thinking and to get out of any rut that I might be in that I'm not even aware of, and hopefully maybe provide an opportunity for someone to think differently about their given situation or how they see any other situation.
As it relates to positive psychology, and as you said, you self identify the most as an actor and storyteller. What is it that you believe you might be modeling with this journey that other people might bring to their own lives if they don't have the ability or the interest in undertaking an endeavor like this in the way that you are?
Mm. Well, I, you know, so I mean, one of the things that I've found a little challenging when it comes to the discussion of positive psychology, and that I have a brand right now, is the relationship of promoting a brand, because that's something that I believe in and want to do, and the uh, um, the economics that comes with that in relationship to positive psychology, right? Well, frankly, I think if every leader of a company, every brand out there, every was thinking about how their brand can be better for people, for humanity. I'm not saying we're doing it perfectly. We're constantly changing our packaging. We have to fix and work on, and all of that. We're always doing that, but just the intention of, well, how does that, how does that, the people who we, the ingredients where that comes from, how are they treated, right? Um, and then to somebody who's buying our brand, you know, they might struggle with the money to buy something. So, uh, you know, uh, again, how do we start looking at, how do we allow more access to the story itself? So for us, we have products that are less expensive. They're smaller, and all of that. Um, I want anyone anywhere somehow to be able to get access to, if not the fragrance, because they might not even like our fragrances, right? But access to the idea that their story matters, that they matter, and they can come back and be a part of our world, whether they buy a fragrance or not, right? And I hope that other companies, and particularly the corporations, that they can start thinking that way, right? Is that we really start embracing humanity both individually and collectively. And how do we do that? I think we do that by recognizing that people have value.
And Jeff, this, of course, is your series. It's not my series. As you share that, something that it makes me think of is my experience having hosted hundreds of episodes of various podcasts, and in particular, my show, Choose the Hard Way, and now my new series, The United States of Sweat, and having listened to thousands and thousands of hours of podcasts since they started until now at this moment in 2025, my perception of the role of podcasts and storytelling has shifted over time. And the way I regard it now is that all podcasts, including mine, are holding a mirror up to people. And I don't think everyone knows this, but when I have Ambassador Jeff Flake on my podcast, or I have the alpinist Corey Richards, who summited Everest without oxygen, New York Times bestselling author, it's not about people hearing those stories and thinking, I'm not enough or that's better than me. It's about what do I have inside of me that I haven't found yet? That's how I think about it. And when I hear you say all people and all story, everyone has a story and they all have value, that's the resonance I'm feeling with that concept right now.
Oh man, thank you for saying that. I love that. What's possible. And look, I mean, I certainly am like blown away by somebody summiting Everest. And, I've been to Everest Overlook. I've been to Nepal and been there. And that is something that is just, it's not anywhere in my capacity. It's just not, right? I also think that there are things that are so much smaller that have the same weight and value that aren't in my capacity, right? Stillness, insight, compassion, right? Those things that so many people hold. And because of all the outside stuff and the world that we live in and social media, and, we're so, it's all the big stuff. And, I can be a super grandiose guy, the guy who's about to drive 10 days across the United States. But it really is like, those, I value so much the person that can just get down with a kid and just be a kid, right? And not worry, do I look stupid or letting go or right? And that not thinking about anything else out there, just that moment of complete surrender and all of that. So it's those there's so many things for us to value and value in ourselves and to value in others. And we all, I think most of us know this. We just need to be reminded because of all the noise, right? It's just the noise that just gets in the way of us just remembering like how special people can be. Just that person who greets us in a restaurant that we've been going to, and that person who's just got that special something, and helping people who might be under duress, who maybe in dark times, and that's a lot of us, right? Kind of help people remember where they've made a difference or how they can make a difference. I love the mirror thing. It's the mirror analogy is really fantastic, and it's sometimes when it's in front of us, we forget that that's a mirror there, or that's even what we're looking at. It's almost like it has to be close enough to see the breath on it, Now, oh, yeah, we're alive, and, we do matter, and I can make a difference. And it doesn't have to be Everest, although, that's sick. That's incredible. But really can just be just actually just listening. I that that to me is like, am I really hearing somebody? Am I really listening, or am I spinning in my head waiting to say something?
Absolutely. And Everest might be somebody was able to feed their family today. It might be For some reason, this is making me think about a time I was in the car with my parents when I was an adult. We were in a rush to get somewhere, and there was a senior citizen on the side of the road, frail, walking in pouring rain, and they tripped and fell. My dad pulled over the car, helped the guy get up, and put him in the car and gave him a ride. And later I asked him, like, well, why did you do that? We were in a rush to get somewhere. He's like, of course, like, that's what you do. Like, why would we not do that?
Yeah.
And, so many moments in life pass us by like that. And were you always like this when you were a young person, when you began this journey? Did you always have these insights?
Mm. I I will say I've always been curious, right? I was born curious. Um, uh, and that's um it's so funny. You just said that anecdote. I was like, and my dad, bless his soul, is no longer with us. But I was like, I can I can guarantee you my father never did that anywhere. but but you know what you did by telling me that, me saying that in my head, I was like, yeah, but but what did he do? What was his value? What did he bring? Right? If I can go there, and I can just say that I always thought about my dad, that he had an amazing work ethic, right? And so that's the place that and it was like, I still say that no matter any of the other stuff, I can just say I learned that from him, right? And to your question, I generally see um, uh, opportunity and story out there rather than what's messed up about something. Look, I can see what's messed up about something. I just try not to live there very long, and so Jamie, I'm trying to remember Jamie's last name. When I was a kid in Fort Lauderdale, she showed me a Bible. It was a little red Bible. I mean, just this big, and started talking about God to me, and I ended up getting like baptized over in her swimming pool, and uh, and I think any of that kind of stuff for me is anything, Jonathan Livingston Seagull to Shirley MacLaine to going to the Church of Scientology in Paris. It's just like always like, all right, well, this sounds cool. They're digging on it, and so much of it was not right for me, but so much of it was about the spirit of people, right? And which is the essence of your dad, right? It's like, I guess all those things that are attractive to me are moments like that, people like that, and it comes through really small, often through very small gestures.
Yeah. And I guess, again, this is about your journey, not mine. But to expand on why that particular moment with my father, who's a very loving and compassionate person, really struck me, is like, my dad is one of the toughest, hardest men that I know. So, like, it really, when we did that, I was like, wow, and again, thinking about what you shared about how we live in a divided time, and also about the power of deeply listening to each other in an era that has placed a premium, particularly in some of the industries where you're operating and in culture at large, on being interesting and not so much on being interested in other people. And that's really what I'm hearing this experience is about.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it, Andrew. Thank you. And here's, I said it earlier. The thing is always, I feel like it's easy in the where for myself, with all the noise, with all the stuff, with the stress that comes with of everything that's going on around us, um, is is remembering those things. And so a big trip like this is kind of to get my sea legs back on, to like, God, just to like see it right in front of me, to really just like right in front of my face. And right, am I really listening? Am I really there? Who's in front of me? Not just the person who I'm going to have a podcast with, or, but who's the person that I'm pulling into a restaurant with, or at the motel or hotel where I'm staying, that's signing me in. What space are they in? Where are they? What can I bring to them? Just by an interaction there. So I think it's a reminder. It's a reminder. Uh, yeah, of how great we all are, and how cool this gig is. And it might be really hard to see it right now, and that's okay. Um, but we can remind ourselves that it's there. It's there. Hang in there. Um, and I'm talking to myself too through all this. It's just, I lost my brother this year, completely unexpected. My mom, who lives with us, it's a struggle. It's 9 months now. And, every day my brother would call my mom at 4 o'clock. They talk for an hour on the phone. He's my older brother. He died unexpectedly from a pulmonary embolism. And, he's not here. And that is, it's a real missing piece of our lives. Right. And so, um, uh, you know, it's like, how do I give his story weight and value as well, even though he's gone? So it's kind of all, and to take care of my mom. I mean, I when I come back, it's like, I need to actually be with her and not just be there, sitting there, and then on my phone, and because I'm, you know, busy, but, you know, actually be there with her. Um, yeah.
I'm sorry for your loss. And everyone metabolizes grief differently, and however they do it, of course, is the perfect way to do it. When you experience that sudden loss, did anything shift for you in relation to how you thought about how you were spending your time, or things that you knew you wanted to do with whatever time you have here?
Yes, it absolutely shifted. The problem for me is how quickly it shifts back, or at least shifts back in that direction, because of the stuff. Um, and I mean, we've got a 26-year-old son who was a baby just the other day, and um, how I connect to him, how I value him, how I hear him, how I listen, um, how I communicate uh, with him, his value and meaning to me, is so crucial. And if I keep getting dragged back in, that's like they just keep pulling me back in. If I keep getting dragged back in and not use the tools uh, that I have, and that, that's what a lot of this is about, is really just a reminder of the tools that we have. This, we include fragrance and scent because it's so crucial, and has been really not, we think, not valued the way it should be, with the direct connection to the limbic system and all of that, for emotion and memory. But the tools that we have, whether it's listening or meditating or journaling or, prayer, um, uh, or exercise, or all the different things that we have available to us, uh, that reminder, uh, um, that they're not only that they're there, but to actually uh, just do it. Grab one, just do it. Doesn't have to be perfect. It can be sloppy and half-assed, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but at least it starts, we're making the connection, we're putting pen to paper, right? Instead of just having that great idea, the real challenging part is the pen to paper, as a writer, that. And yeah, so that's my brother's loss. Yeah, it switched. And then it's like, God, why am I was just singing the other day, you know, uh, why am I not talking to sorry, why am I not talking to his boys as much as I should be? Why am I not connecting with those guys? And, these are really incredible young men, who are starting families, and, they need me. I need to be there for them. So this tours I had off, yes, for 10, 12 days or whatnot, but it's a reminder of, okay, now let's do this.
One of my favorite koans is if a rock's too heavy, set it down. And which
Love.
just when I
Yeah.
heard that one, you mentioned stuff, and I notice that's perhaps purposefully vague. And this is your show, and you can, of course, decide what you want to share. What is the stuff, and what do you hope to set down
Mm.
potentially?
Um, uh, Expectations. I think that's that came to mind. Um, you know, uh, Financial insecurity. Um, my own personal value. Um, my therapist, who I don't see now, but I still think she's one of the greatest people who's of all time. Said, talked about being good enough. And, you know, uh, you're a guy that mentions Everest, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not good enough. Right. Um, uh, and it's just like her, when I was at Penn, it was a regular conversation, good enough. And James Pawelski, who heads the program there, was really incredible with really just driving home in a super genuine, authentic, grounded way of that we belong. We actually belong there in the program. The imposter syndrome. Whenever we're ready and willing to let it go, that rock we can set down. you know, and that we're good enough. And thank you, Barbara. Yes, I'm good enough. I don't really need to. I don't need to go be more. I can just be as I am, who I am. And man, it's, you know, how do I work with people, coach people, just be a good listener or a friend, a father, a husband, um, uh, sufficiently, if I can at least work on embracing that notion of being good enough as I am right now, today, good enough. So yeah, thank you, Barbara.
To paraphrase Joseph Goldstein, relaying an anecdote from the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama once had a student ask him this question. It was someone who was struggling in life, and they were having challenges, and they expressed, I feel like I don't have value. I'm without worth. And the Dalai Lama said, "You are wrong." Like full stop, which, you don't hear a lot of that when you hear Dharma talks relayed. And going back to what you shared at the beginning about the journey you're going on and initiating dialogue, hearing people's stories that they all have worth, and you yourself exploring your relationship to your identity and the things that you carry, that's what you're going to be exploring. And that's the journey you're going to take listeners on. And that's what we're going to find out.
Wow. Yeah. I Wow. It actually, you made it actually really all of a sudden feel like a journey. Like, really is, it's a journey. Not just that physical journey from, point A to point B to point C and on. Um, it's a journey. I will be different after this. Uh, there's just no going back, that's hopefully all in one piece. That's good. That would be great. But yeah, um, yeah, I want to just also be good with my expectations. I talked to you about that is like, you know, uh, uh, I just don't want it to, I just, there's no wrong here. Right. It's like, if I'm just, actually standing by myself, overlooking a scenic view, that's good enough. All right. If I just listen to one person say hello, and connect with them, that's good enough. And that good enough is not settling for something. Good enough is amazing. Um, that's what you were talking about earlier. Is that smelling the roses, taking a beat, just